Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm going to be checking out the Jumper T16 Hall Pro. Now, I know I'm late to the party with this one, but after seeing so many influencers say that they were switching to this radio, I had to check it out. So, starting off with the good things, OpenTX now supports it. There was some controversy around Jumper copying the FrSky Horus internals, which caused OpenTX to back out of supporting the Jumper transmitters, but for whatever reason, that has been resolved. I know for a little while, OpenTX was being dubbed Closed TX, so perhaps that's the reason. It's really cheap for what it does, but it doesn't feel cheap. It's as if all of the FrSky transmitters have been made into one. For example, the switches and sliders are in the same position as the X9D, apart from the 6th position switch from the Horus, which has been changed into individual buttons, which I really like. Then at the bottom, the buttons and rocker dial are very reminiscent of the latest releases from FrSky. But then we have this huge screen very similar to the Horus again. At the top there's a protective cover which reveals a USB connector for updating the firmware and can also be used as a joystick output for a simulator. And next to that is the trainer port if you want to set it up as a buddy box system. At the back there is a sliding battery bay door and a 2-cell 18650 removable adapter with a balance cable. As this is the Pro Hall version, you can actually charge the 18650 cells with the balance connector, but you'll have to make up a special cable for your charger, and it doesn't come with any batteries either. The gimbals are Hall effect, which means they will stand the test of time, unlike standard gimbals which have a physical contact when they move and can wear out or become unstable. You can get them in both mode 1 and mode 2, and if you take the back off you can tighten up a screw which will give you a ratchet on your throttle, which is a preference of mine, so I'm really glad that that's there. But of course one of the main reasons everyone wants this transmitter is the built-in multi-module, which means you can pretty much bind to any receiver with the exception of some Futaba protocols and of course Crossfire. But as the multi-module is built into the transmitter itself, its module bay is free to keep something in it permanently, like the Crossfire module, whereas with the FrSky transmitters you have to keep swapping the modules out. You're given a removable antenna, a jumper lanyard, as well as a USB cable, some spares for the gimbals and a screen protector. So what are the downsides? Well, thanks to FrSky's tactics, they're pretty hard to get hold of because a lot of vendors were forced not to sell them in favour of FrSky products. So I'll add a list of places in the video description where you can buy them from. But a consequence of their low price means that they are quite often sold out as well. And that was a downside for me because I'm a Mode 1 flyer and all of the Mode 1 models were sold out. So I had to get a Mode 2 version and convert it to Mode 1, which isn't straightforward because unlike the FrSky transmitters, they have physically removed the spring on the throttle axis, and you can't just unplug and swap the gimbals over because the Hall sensor boards are specific to each gimbal and don't fit in the other way around. So I had to add one of these white arms and springs to the left side and remove the same from the right side gimbal, which took around an hour to do and was very fiddly. If you remove the 2 rubber pads on the back, you can adjust the tension of the springs, but oddly only on the horizontal axis and not the vertical. So again, it's best to take the back off if you want to change the tension of all of the springs. Now I like my sticks pretty tight, and luckily when I adjusted the screw to the max they are just right for me, but the sticks are extremely loose otherwise, which I know a lot of people like, so that's a personal preference thing for me. This is a new unit and everything seems to be working fine. However, I've heard a lot of QC issues and things failing over short periods of time, but perhaps that's just because so many people have them. So I'd love to hear in the comments any issues that you guys have had with this product and what the customer support was like. Now, I'm not new to the multi-module game. In fact, we are incredibly spoilt with this transmitter because a few years ago now I made a video showing showing how to make something like this thanks to the great folks over at Deviation TX, who took the Walkera Devo firmware and modified it so that multiple modules could be added to a Walkera controller. So 2.4 gigahertz protocols could be reverse engineered and you could control cheap toys with a hobby grade controller or practically anything. So that led to external modules being supported by OpenTX. The problem is though that there are new protocols being added all of the time by the Deviation TX guys, which will only get added periodically with OpenTX updates because they just take a slice of the Deviation TX releases, whereas Deviation TX can have a new protocol uploaded to it the same day that it's been reversed engineered, and it can be on your Deviation TX controller. I guess that's not so much of an issue these days. I'm not sure how many people are still buying cheap toy models and using these multi-protocol chips with them as much as we used to. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you're still doing that. But if you are, then Deviation TX is the way to go. There's no built-in charge circuit for the 18650 batteries. That would have been a nice addition, which they are adding to the T16S, although when I say they, perhaps that's not the right word to use. It seems that there has been a split in the jumper company itself, which happens quite a lot in this industry. So they're calling it the Radiomaster TX16S, which will be released soon and has things like USB-C rather than a mini USB, and improved sliders, which on the T16 are very loose and it's quite hard to find the center point. It's also worth mentioning that if you're using Crossfire with the T16, then it's going to drain the 18650 batteries pretty quickly, and there's not much room in the battery bay for a bigger LiPo like there is in some other transmitters on the market. The T16 feels strange in the hands compared to my daily driver, which is the X9D, due to its gimbals being higher up and my hands can't quite curve around the bottom of the transmitter due to the large screen that's in the way, so it doesn't feel like I have as much grip as I'd like because I'm a thumber and I don't use a lanyard. But I guess it's just like when you buy a new car. Stuff like that does feel different at first, and it's something that you can get used to. So I think in all, the T16 is a good transmitter, especially for beginners who are on a tight budget. You do get a lot for your money. But I do wonder about its future with it being built around the old FrSky hardware. FrSky themselves aren't using this hardware anymore, and their new access protocol required a main board change on their Horus. So with the T16's hardware being based off the Horus, I don't think the jumper could support the access protocol. And when I asked Jumper if it could, the answer I got back was, we don't know. On the other hand, FrSky are being really slow with their access protocol. I just worry that there will come a time when you go to buy an XM Plus receiver and it's flashed with an irreversible access protocol that won't work with the Jumper transmitters. I'm sure Jumper could come out with their own D16 XM Plus receiver, but if FrSky eventually delivers a 2.4 GHz version of Crossfire, which is what I believe they're trying to do, then you could be missing out on that. Only time will tell. Anyways, I'm going to be doing something completely different with this transmitter today because a few months ago Painless360 very kindly gave me his Park Zone Vapor, which is a 15-gram indoor model that flies so slow it looks like it's defying gravity, and I wanted something a little bit like that but more aerobatic, so I've bought the Horizon Hobby UMX Yak 54, which uses the Spectrum protocol. So I thought, what a perfect model to try out with the T16. So this is going to be the maiden of the UMX. Really is made of cling film, or I think, would it be Saran wrap, the American version? Saran wrap, I think. Very thin. Who's put mode 1 on it? Unfortunately, somebody taught me mode 1.
Mentioning no names. How about the Pro version?
It's the Pro Hall version, yeah. What do you think of it in your hands?
Pardon? It's heavy.
Yeah, I find it heavy.
Quality.
Good quality for the price. Yeah.
Gimbals there. I've got it.
I find that the bottom of my hands doesn't quite grip around the bottom, but I'm a thumber. I don't know, are you a thumber?
Yeah, it looks like a toy one because it's completely square. Where like the Nirvana, it's a bit more of a
Yeah, because your
modern
transmitter is
shape to it.
Nirvana, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a more modern shape. It just looks a bit old-fashioned and a bit boring, but feels better than it looks.
Yeah, definitely. Phil, as the only other Mode 1er in the UK, what do you reckon about the feel of this transmitter?
It feels like a quality Futaba set. Nice big screen, well-positioned switches.
Do you notice anything about the switches and the sliders? Think about your X9D. Exactly the same positions. Everything. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, good. Go for that.
One thing I noticed was when I'm holding it, my hands at the bottom, they sort of don't quite curve around it like they do on the X9D. Do you find the same?
I think on this, because you've got this raised edge here, you haven't got that same curved, natural feel to it. Especially like a kind of a grip, but it's not really working for me.
I suppose with us, we're just so used to 90s transmitters, so anything that's different
I'm
than
an
that.
80s man.
Okay.
I'm used to square edges that cut holes in your palms and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, FR Sky make a couple of those.
Yeah, it feels good. I like that.
Cool, because that's what I'm flying the cling film plane with today.
Great stuff.
And if I can't fly it, you're flying it.
Yeah, I'll have a go. No worries.
So Phil, as a Mode 1 flyer and as somebody who taught me how to fly Mode 1, would you recommend somebody starting today flying Mode 1?
All the time I would, and the reason is...
You would?
Yeah, because when you're teaching someone, to keep it simple, to try and separate the two main controls, which is elevator and aileron, okay? Put them on one stick. I've always found if someone's learning that way, they're going to find it very difficult. You're trying to balance two controls on one thumb or thumb and finger, and it's not the easiest thing to do. For me, Mode 1 made sense. That's how I got into it. And teaching, that's how it makes sense. So everybody else on Mode 2, I think you're very strange, but good luck to you.
Okay, Paul, so why is that wrong? Because even though I fly Mode 1, and you used to fly Mode 1, you now fly Mode 2.
I'd say Mode 2.
Yeah, so would I. Sorry, Phil.
Just because more people do as well.
Yeah.
So if you come here and you say to somebody, can you check my plane for me? And you fly Mode 1, if Phil isn't here and you aren't here, you've had it.
That's it,
There's nobody else.
I agree.
I mean, like I say, I learned fly Mode 1 and I can just about fly Mode 1 now. But if somebody come with a decent plane and said, can you test me this? I'd say, no.
No.
I can't fly Mode 1 well enough.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was Mode 2, I'd have a go at anything for them.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
You know, I'll train people.
Yeah,
but
of course you do.
not Mode 1, no. I do like this. I don't like them, the sliders.
Yeah,
I
there's no centre position.
No, because if you were using flaps on that one, you would not know where centre was.
Yeah.
If you were using flaps down and like air brakes up, which I do, you couldn't use it on that one.
Yeah.
On that one, you could
just about.
Yeah.
Well, Jumper have parted ways, and there's another company that's come up called Radio Master
I've seen
now.
that one, yeah.
Yeah, the TX16S, and apparently they've sorted that out.
Yeah. What the batteries last like if you put a module in and whatnot.
Yeah, the batteries do drain pretty quick if you stick Crossfire in the back. What is good, because it's got the multi-module built in, is that if you do have Crossfire, you can keep it in, whereas you don't have to take it out if you want to use something else like Spectrum. But yeah, that is something that I picked up on, is the drain, especially if you've got the full-size Crossfire
That's one thing I didn't like with the Nirvana. Zap the batteries.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I don't like about these 18650s, was you start pulling on a Crossfire as well.
That's it,
And
exactly.
screen,
Yeah.
You got a colour screen that's doing
Colour screen that's also drawing it as well. Yeah. And when it's sunny, you can't really see the colour screen as well.
There's a lot of people say, oh, I'd rather have a colour screen than a black and white one, but a black and white one you can read in the sun.
Yeah, this is how you do it. Look. Prop clips the floor, flips it around, back in the air. Amazing skills. Oh, now you're just showing off. Right, so I think I turned that on first. Right, what do you think of the controls, as in like...
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, bags of that, loads of that.
Too much though. That's 35% expo.
Well, expo is not going to reduce the movement, it's just the curve that
It's
things
the curve,
run.
that's right, yeah.
You won't really see it, not so much on one of these things. No, it's just, you've got to get, because the thing weighs nothing, when it's in the air, anything like that will have it rolling and moving really quickly.
Yeah.
But just go like steady power and...
Do you want to maiden it?
Do you know what setting the gyros on?
It's just on standard. Oh, it's pretty slow. Not bad actually.
Yeah, you feel the gyro working when it's trying to pull itself straight level out the loop.
Yeah.
As it is, it's a pussycat, but it is working against you slightly if you want to really feel what's going on.
The gyro is sort of like acting against your inputs, is what you mean.
Well, you can feel it making the corrections, but also working against what you want to do. So if there's another lower setting, I'd go for that, otherwise you're going to find it's getting in the way.
There isn't, unfortunately. That's the lowest setting that it does. Okay, let's give this guy a go. All good so far. Flying quite slow. Not as slow as the Vapor, which I expected. Let's see if I can get it into a hover. Oh, can feel that gyro acting against it. But you know what? The transmitter feels very similar to my X9D. I'm not noticing much difference. The plane, however, is really fighting against me, so it's got a built-in gyro, and I can really feel it. I think that's as good as it's going to get. Well, it can get quite fast if it wants to. Yeah, that's balanced nicely. Oh, very nice. Oh, it turns on a dime though. Will it do a loop? Oh yeah, no problem. Oh, need to watch the quads flying around though. They could disturb this thing quite easily. If I can get a torque roll out of it. You see that? The gyro snapping against it. Look at that. The gyro is actually keeping it level. And I can't turn that off. It's actually fighting against the torque on its own. That is strange. It's like somebody else is controlling the model. Pretty nice for flying in here though. Glad I've got that Expo, because these control surfaces, when they've got a bit of power under them, they really snap. Have to say, I'm really liking this transmitter though. Oh, I can feel the quad disturbing the air. And I'm hovering sort of at the top of the throttle, so I don't think we're going to get much battery out of this. my fault for hovering it. Too used to quadcopters, you see. Oh, did you see it flinch then? That was the airflow from the quad. Pretty funny. I think I'm going to bring it in for a landing before something tears through it. Very nice. So there you go, that is my review of the Jumper T16 Hall Effect Pro. I quite like it. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.